Oh, landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess, and whoa, I didn't expect to see you here today. How you doing? I hope you're doing good. But do me a favor and hit that like button or the terrorists win. And on our recent live stream, we went in on the CJRB Pyrite Light. Now, let's take a look at what we're holding because it'll bother you if I don't. And you know I love you. So, first things first and most importantly, the pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's carry. We have got the white scales here. We have got a thumb stud. Let's flick the stud. And we have got, give or take, 3 inches of AR RPM9 steel, and we're on a button lock. Let's flick the stud again. Okay, now that that's out of the way, we are comparing this to the original Pyrite, and I think, if memory serves, it did a little bit better than the original Pyrite did. I know I wasn't super impressed with the Pyrite, but of course things change and things evolve over time. So let's take a look at how the original Pyrite did. I've got that written down, and that way we have a comparison point to the Pyrite Light. So with the Pyrite, our factory edge was 175. At the 1 hour mark, we hit a 412 and a 382. At an hour and 45 minutes, we hit a 410 and a 531. We stopped and stropped her down to 216 because the cuts were starting to look really bad and someone wanted me to strop it, and we were playing with some new strops and some new material on the strops. So 720 to 805, we hit a 319 on the heel and a 452 on the belly. I think the cuts were starting to look terrible, and we had a dead spot that I couldn't find because we stopped and we sharpened her down to a new edge at 156. 156 is pretty decent. It's not the best edge, but pretty decent for my sharpening equipment. At an hour, we hit a 323 and a 332 where I tested. Another 30 minutes, 383, 465, and another 15 minutes, 434, 465. Another 30 minutes, a 462 and a 587. Now, what this tells me is the cuts were looking bad all the way through there, which I think was part of the problem I had with it, was the cuts the whole way through were starting to look bad, which is the only reason we'd be stopping and testing that often. So at 2 hours and 15 minutes, we called it at the 587, which is pretty toasted. And with the cuts looking god-awful, like the cuts were rolled up and wadded up and not cutting cleanly, we called it a partial death. So that's what happened with the original Pyrite. And unfortunately, that's all the information I can give you because we were going off of strictly the amount of time spent cutting at that point. It was giving us good results and consistent results to compare steels to each other, but it wasn't quite it didn't quite give us the full story as far as how it did. I also did not have editing software to go to the car hole and show you the pile. So with the Pyrite Light, let's go ahead and go to the car hole, and I'll show you the pile of cardboard that this thing generated. Here you go. All right, folks, and welcome back to the car hole, and here's the pile of cardboard that we made off of the new edge on the CJRB Pyrite Light. It's nothing to write home about, but it's a lot better than the original Pyrite did as far as I remember. All right, now that you've seen that, it was a decent-sized pile of cardboard, like not the best that we've done off of similar steels, but it was okay enough. But let's take a look at how this thing did with the results that we wrote down. So when we started, we had a 315 on the factory edge, which is not great. I believe this thing wasn't that sharp to start off with, which was a complaint that I had, but it started off at a 315. We had to sharpen immediately between the 315 that we had, and I believe the factory angle was pretty obtuse, which is why it started cutting terrible right out of the gate. But we did 17 degrees per side, and we got a 145, which is good for my sharpening equipment. That's pretty average. The 150-something on the original Pyrite. A little bit worse than this, but still okay. So at 1 hour, we hit a 466 in the center where I tested. At the 2 hour mark, we hit a 566 in the center where I tested, kind of similar to the original Pyrite. But the cuts were still clean, and the cuts were still going all right. We got another hour out of it, and the cuts were still looking okay. However, with the electronic edge sharpness tester, all we got was a 502, a 534, and a 506 where I was testing it to find the worst spot. I could not find the dead spot because our cuts started looking like this right here. Our cuts started looking god-awful. They were completely wrecked out. and some of those cuts were even worse than I was showing on that particular piece of cardboard, but the cuts were shot. The edge was shot, and that's where we look at a devastated edge. So we had a dead spot in there that was up over 600. We just couldn't find it. We sharpened her down to a 135, which is, again, not too shabby. I believe at that point we stopped at around 600 grit to leave a little bit toothier of an edge because we have added... Sorry. Come here. We have added the 1-inch hemp rope to the testing. So we have added the 1-inch hemp rope, and like, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do best practices with that. This is the first time we've done it, so I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking for or exactly how to sharpen these to really give them their best shot at doing okay. But we got 8 cuts before it was no longer cutting through. It would cut partway through and it wouldn't cut anymore. And so I stopped and practiced some freehand sharpening on here and kind of goofed around with it. I'm not too worried about the edge after the fact just because I'm going to throw this in the graveyard and not carry it again. And again, I liked carrying it. It rode in the pocket well. It did what I needed it to. If I remember right, it wasn't cutting the best because of that 315. That's definitely not a great edge, and it may have had a burr on it. I'm not sure after this long. I carried it a long time ago. That's part of why I can't remember. I think this might be G10 on the scales. I don't remember, but it did okay all around. The ergonomics on it were okay enough. I did get a little bit of a blister right here, and of course this part of my hand, focus, this part of my hand is not as strong as it used to be because I took a break for a couple of months and it went soft, but it took a long time for that to happen. Definitely not the best ergonomics, but they were okay. They did okay enough. The hot spot didn't feel too bad. It wasn't too painful. I didn't really feel the blister come up, but I knew it was there. So the ergonomics, okay. Now, something that was interesting is the coating started wearing away. The coating started wearing away. You can kind of see it right here on this side, and on this side, it's right here, a little bit worse. And up at the top of the flats, more of the coating started wearing off. You can see it right here, and you can see it right here, and a little bit at the top along the spine. So the coating, not the most durable thing on the planet. We've seen other coatings hold up without anything major. It also hairline scratched out like crazy. You can kind of see it right there. You can see it right there. The coating picked up a ton of hairline scratches. It's not the most durable coating. I think, and I could be wrong, I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy dicking around with knives in his basement. But I believe this might be a PVD coating because the DLC coating, I think, and I could be wrong again, but I think the DLC coating is the more durable of the two. And we have had other coatings like this hold up way better. It's not a huge hairy deal. Like, it's not a huge hairy deal. You've really got to push this thing and you've really got to put some use on it before the edge starts wearing out, or put it through some hard use. We cut up more cardboard than you're going to cut up over the average month, even over the course of the life of the knife, unless you are in a warehouse or something like that where you have to cut up a lot of cardboard, and at that point you're probably using a razor knife or a utility knife. So overall, at the end of the day, I am okay with this thing. You know, I got this for, I believe, $25 after a gift card, which was the right price. But for the price, with it being a budget knife, I've done better, but I've also done a whole lot worse. So, you know, I'm reasonably happy with it. I'm reasonably okay with the results. I would have liked to have seen the edge hold up a little bit better and the steel hold up a little bit better. I would have liked to have seen it go into the 4-hour mark on that 17 degree per side edge, at least 3.5 hours. From what I've been told, the RPM9 is supposed to be spray formed 9CR. And 9CR, we usually get a little bit better than that, but, you know, the steel could be a little bit softer for reasons of toughness over edge retention. I don't know. Like, you'd have to talk to Kajerb and see what they say about it. But, you know, overall, I'm reasonably happy with it. I'm happy that we saw a bit of improvement over the original Pyrite. So, yeah, that's all I can think of to share with you about it. And you guys know I love sharing with you what happened during Cardboard Slayer. That's what happened to the Kajerb Pyrite Light. So, all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. Y'all keep coming in. I appreciate you so, so much. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We got live streams. We got regular videos. There's plenty of activities. comments. I love some feedback. Let me know what you think about this thing and how it did or anything else. And all that being said, y'all have a nice day.